Hey y'all, I'm back after almost 2 months. I really didn't mean to go this long without doing a video, but I did. I apologize. But I wanted to come on today. I actually started reading a book today. I don't know if you guys saw my post from earlier about the book I started reading. It's titled Monitoring Spirits. And it just talks about different ways of how, the enemy can come in and get information and how he kind of, watches you in order to get information so that he can either stop you from fulfilling your destiny or stop you from getting blessings. But anyway, I read half of the book today. Because it was just that good. And the reason why I think it was the Holy Spirit that led me to that book, because I had a dream the other night that kind of bothered me. And the fact that I saw that book, and it kind of shed more light onto the dream I had. But I'll share my dream later. That's not why I'm making the video. But anyway, in the book, it talked about, in Numbers chapter 22, the Israelites were, camped. I believe it was outside of Jericho, I believe. And Balak was nervous, so to speak, because he's seen the Israelites. They were in great number. He's heard, of course, what God has done for them, how they have conquered all, some of these nations. And he was afraid. He was scared. So he went and summoned for Balaam. And he heard all the things that Balaam had done. And he went and summoned for Balaam to come and curse the Israelites. Ain't that something? So, long story short, Balaam didn't come the first time. And the second time, Balak sent some more men to come and try to entice him with, whatever he could pay him in order to get him to curse the Israelites. That's how bad he wanted to curse them, okay? like he was willing to pay whatever. But anyway, Balaam said, no amount of money, pretty much no amount of money is going to get me to do anything that God doesn't tell me to do. So, long story short, Balaam comes and he starts off by telling Balak to set up 7 altars. So the first time Balak took him to a section where he could see some of the Israelites. And right at that place, Balaam told him to set up 7 altars and prepare 7 bulls and 7 rams for a sacrifice. And so they sacrificed the bulls and the rams. And then Balaam said, I'm going to go and see what the Lord says. So he went to talk to God for a moment, and he came back. And Balak was like, well, what did he say? And pretty much Balaam said that God didn't say to curse them. God actually blessed them. And I can't say anything. Balaam told him before he started, he said, I can't say anything other than what God tells me to say. So just as long as you understand that. So God spoke blessings over the Israelites. So Balaam, in return, Balaam had to speak blessings over the Israelites because that's what God said. So Balak got mad. So he was just like, okay, let me move you to another section. So he moves him to a higher elevation so that he can see more of the Israelites. Okay. I guess in his mind, maybe thinking that if he saw more of them, then it would make him more concerned, like he was concerned. And then maybe it would kind of alter, his whatever he's going to say. So Balaam tells him to set up 7 more altars. Okay. So now we at 14 altars. 14. So there's 7 more bulls, 7 more rams. And so they sacrifice the bulls, they sacrifice the rams. And so Balaam says, I'm going to go off and see what the Lord says. So he goes off to talk to God about it. And God, of course, still does not curse the Israelites. He speaks blessings over the Israelites. So in turn, Balaam had to speak blessings over the Israelites. So Balaam comes back to Balak and tells him what God says. And Balak is like frustrated. He says, bruh, I told you I can pay you all the riches in the world. Why are you blessing them? Why are you blessing them? I'm trying to get you to curse them. Like, what are you doing? And Balaam pretty much said, I told you from the jump, I cannot say anything that God did not tell me to say. God said, bless them. That's what I did. And so Balaam got so frustrated. He said, well, if you can't curse them, well, can you at least stop blessing them? Like, can you at least not bless them? like you are defeating the purpose here. So Balak decides that he's going to take Balaam to an even higher elevation so that he can get even more of a view of the Israelites. And so, and this was where the whole, monitoring spirit comes from, right? So he takes them to a higher elevation where he can see even more of the Israelite camp. So they set up 7 more altars and got 7 more bulls and got 7 more rams. And so after they did the burnt offerings, Balaam goes to see what God is going to say again. And so same thing happens. God speaks blessings over the Israelites and not curses. And so Balaam went back to Balak and said, this is what God said. And God has blessed them once again. God has blessed them. So there was no curse that could befall the Israelite camp because there was no open door. Okay? There was no open door. And when I was reading that part of the book, when it was talking about that story, and it made me really think about how important, living the right way is. God calls us to live a certain standard. And there's a reason why he calls us to live that standard. And that's because if we keep our part of the deal or our part of the agreement and we live according to his will, God in turn puts a hedge of protection over us so that whatever the enemy is trying to concoct, whatever curses he is trying to put out will not succeed. And that's what people don't understand, is that when you live right, the enemy cannot. He can try to form whatever it is he wants to form. He can try to curse you. He can try to plot. He can try to scheme. He will not be able to do it. An example of that, like even with Job, like the devil had to literally come to God and ask permission from God to mess with Job because he could not touch Job, bro. He could not touch Job. Like, that is how protected Job was. It matters how you live your life. It does. It matters. I can tell a difference. When I surrendered and I gave my life to God and I gave up sin, I can tell a difference. But it matters how you live your life. Because if you live in sin, you leave so many open doors. You leave so many open doors for the enemy to come in. It's ridiculous. And once you have those open doors, you lose your hedge of protection. Righteousness covers you. Holiness covers you. I know it seems lame to be holy and live holy, but there's a great protection that comes with holiness and righteousness and purity. Hello? There's a great protection that comes with that. And when you succumb to sin in that manner, you lose your protection. you lose your protection. It's almost like, back in the 70s, how how a lot of the people in the neighborhoods used to leave their windows unlocked, and they used to, sleep with the door open. And they used to sleep with the door unlocked. And I'm a crime show junkie. So, the 70s were pretty much the era of the serial killer era right there. That's where a lot of the serial killers just were birthed all at one time. in that decade, all at once. They just came from everywhere. And people were literally left their doors unlocked, left their windows unlocked. And the enemy was literally like walking around and killing people. And what these people would do, what a lot of those serial killers would do, is that before they would come into a house, they didn't have to break in necessarily because the house was open. The door was left open. And so what they would do is they would monitor them for like a couple of weeks, and they would sit back and watch, and they would know your schedule, and they would know what time you left and went to work, and they would know what time you came home for lunch, and they would know what time you got back home from work, and they would study you. And that's exactly what the enemy does. He studies you so that at the appropriate time he can go in and attack. If you leave that door unlocked, if you leave that door open, if you leave any access, he will come in. That's just how he is. So that man sitting there, that man sitting out on the street who is watching your every move, who's watching your every move, knows that you go to work at 8 o'clock, you leave at 7:30. He knows that he can go in the house at 7:45, and that you're going to come back on your lunch break at 12. And that's when he'll meet you in the house after he jumps out the closet. You know what I'm saying? But you left the door open for him to come in and do that. And so that's how a lot of us, I know for me, I had to learn the hard way, because there was a point in my life, and I was reflecting on this today too, when God called me into giving up fornication. I didn't argue with him on it. I think I was just at that point where I was just ready to stop being crazy anyway. I was just ready to surrender because what I was doing wasn't working. And so I was like, you want me to give up fornication? Fine, here you go. I get it up. Door closed. You want me to give up pornography? Okay, here you go. Door closed. That's fine. And then God was like, okay, I need something else. I'm like, I gave you everything, but he started talking to me about my thoughts and my mind, and how he started convicting me of thinking a certain way. Because even though I wasn't fornicating, even though I wasn't watching pornography, like, my thoughts were still in that area. Like, my thoughts were still in the gutter. And so, like, I was like, man, I can't do it. Like, I'm like, come on, God, I gave up fornication. I gave up pornography. I gotta have something. In my mind, back then, I was like, I gotta have something. I can't even think about it. I can't even think about it. What you talking about? Like, I can't even think about it, Jesus. Like, not even. And God was like, no, you need to give me your mind and let me renew your mind. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I had a real attitude about it. I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do it. I was like, I gotta have something in my mind. I gotta have something. So me and God literally. Now, usually God don't go back and forth with me, but in this situation, he did, and I really do believe it's because he was really serious. He was really serious about purifying me, and so the process couldn't be completed. The purification process could not be completed until this thing up here needed to be reprogrammed. You know what I mean? And so I fought him on giving him my mind and my thoughts for so long that God finally said, you know what? If you want to think that way, go ahead. You want to think that way. And like, I did not realize that when I made that decision to not surrender 100% to what God was telling me to do, I didn't realize that I left the door open. Right? I did not realize that I left the door open. And I thought I was good. Like, I thought I was good. I was just like, I gave up fornication. I gave up pornography. I'm good. I'm so holy now. I'm just like, I'm so holy now. Come on. Got all this righteousness and holiness, but I still left the door open because I didn't want to change the way that I think. I still wanted to think about lust. I still wanted to think about stuff I used to think about. And when I tell you, it took nothing for the enemy to come through that door and make me backslide. So fast. Like, so fast. I mean, it happened so fast. I was like, why did I do that? Like, where did that come from? I did not wake up this morning thinking that I was going to go back to my old habits. And it happened all because I did not want to do what God told me to do. And it left that door open and it gave the enemy access. All because I didn't want to change the way that I think. I didn't want my mind to be renewed. I'm like, I gave up everything you want me to. I'm going to keep this. Like, you can give up 95% of what God tells you to give up. But if you keep that 5%, you best believe the enemy going to use that 5%. Oh, you best believe. If you leave that door cracked, even just a little bit, you best believe that he's going to come in and that inch, he going to take a whole mile and a half, maybe 2. All right. So I didn't realize at the time that I was doing myself a disservice because the stubborn part of me was just like, I don't want to be like I want to be. I did not understand purity in its 100%, you know, in its fullness. I didn't really understand it. I thought purity was about, you know, not doing anything physical. But yeah, your mind got to be in the right position too. I'm just like, I want to give that up. I'm like, I got to at least think about it, Jesus. I'm like, what do you expect me to do? What do you expect me to do with my time? Like, what do you expect me to do? But it left that door open and the enemy walked right in. Like, on a day that I did not even expect. It just happened out of the blue. And I backslid. Just that fast. Just that fast. I did not have my protection. And so when you willingly live in a life of sin, you forfeit your hedge of protection. So luckily for the Israelites, they were covered. They didn't have there was no open door that the enemy could have snuck into in that moment. But in Numbers chapter 25, after Balaam goes his way, Balak goes his way, the Israelites end up succumbing to Moabite women. After all that, it took some prostitutes it literally took some prostitutes to come into the Israelite camp and cause that hedge of protection to be destroyed. Just that fast. Just that fast. Just that fast. This is like from chapter 24, literally from Numbers chapter 24 to Numbers chapter 25. Just that fast. They allowed themselves to be entertained by Moabite women, and then the women end up seducing them, and before they know it, they were worshiping their gods and worshiping Baal and doing all this stuff that they knew they were not supposed to do. And because they did that, that hedge of protection was gone. And man, God was upset because it was a lot of people that died from that. Like, God had them Old Testament God did not play. Okay. I mean, God still don't play, but Old Testament God, some of this stuff going on now, whew, I'm trying to tell you. But they lost their hedge of protection all because they chose for a split second to not live right. So how you live your life matters. God isn't just telling you to live a certain way because he don't want you to have no fun. Like, he don't want you to live a dull life. You know what I'm saying? He not trying to be a party pooper. He not. There are rewards for living righteously. If you could only see what God protects you from, if you could see it, because a lot of it is spiritual. If you could see every attack, it would blow your mind. It would literally blow your mind. But I'm telling you, make sure all of your doors are closed. Because if anything is open, if there's even a cracked door open, the enemy will slip in. And it don't take much. You can brag about your holiness today and be in sin tomorrow. Just that fast. It's just that fast. Ask me how I know. So I just wanted to come on and share that with you guys. Y'all, the book is so good. I'm telling you. I read half the book. And I usually don't read whole books in one day, but I almost finished that one so fast. I forgot his name, but I did post the cover of the book in my post this morning. So if you want to know what book it is, just check that post out. All right, and I will see you guys. Hopefully you enjoy this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.